Good day everyone. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a login form. The first thing to do, I have to, I'm just going to launch my Visual Studio. So now that Visual Studio is launched, I have to create a new project. I'll come to create new project, then I click on it. It will give me a little box where I have to choose because I want to do the Visual C Sharp as project. The project that I'm going to build is going to be under Visual Studio. All right, so it is going to be Windows form. So I'll come to desktop here. Actually, I'll come to Visual Studio C Sharp. Then I'm going to look for Windows form because I'm gonna do project that uses Windows form to create my application. All right. So this is the first choice. This is the one that I want to work on, Windows form app. Then I'll come to name here. I'm going to name it as login form. This is I'm going to log it. So by the way, before creating a project, it always being the best to create a folder under which you're going to save your project. I created a folder. Just going to open that folder to show you where I let me go back here. So I'm going to local disk C. This is why I created a project already. Here it is. And the project, actually the folder that I created, I named it project. So this is the folder that I already created. All right. So I'm just going to double click on it. And then I'm going to create another folder inside this folder, which I will name login form. Okay. Then I double click. So far, this folder is empty. So I'm going to completely close this folder here. Then I get back to Visual Studio. Remember, we have already selected Windows Form, which we have named login form. And then I have to browse all the way here on this button so I can choose the folder in which I will be saving all the packages that comes for this project to work properly. So let me go and specify the location where I would like to save the packages um, for this project. So remember, I select this PC, then I came to local disk C. I double click on it. The folder I have to work on is the one that is named project. I'm going to double click on it, and then there's two different folder. I would like to save all the packages for this project into the folder name login form. So I'm going to double click on it and then come to select, and then I'll go to OK. Just wait for a few seconds for Visual Studio to give me an empty form. All right, so this is an empty form that comes by default. It will be named as form 1, but this one does not make sense. I'd like this form to be called login form. All right, so I'm just gonna let me try to reduce this form. It's too big. I want it to be a bit tiny like this. I think it's gonna work perfectly with this size here. So I'm going to double click and then go to property. Not double click, but actually right click and then select property. All right, the pointer must be on the page to specify that you are selecting actually this form in order to work on it. So after the form has been selected and the properties panel has been activated, I'll come where it says text. I'm going to rename from form 1 to login form. All right. So the text property of this login form has been changed. I have to go also change the name property of this form. Just all the way around here. Okay, name. By default, it's gonna come as form 1 or If we choose the second form, it will say form 2, but that does not make sense. We have to put a name that really identifies, that will differentiate this form, because as time goes, you'll be dealing with maybe so many forms. That's why it's always been important to name a form with a meaningful weight, so that you can make a difference between different forms, especially if you'll be dealing with different form. So this one, I'm going to name it from form 1 to FM logging. So FM stands for form. That simply means that this form is the one that will be dealing with logging. Okay. I click on the page and then I save it. Click on save so that I don't lose anything. So let now me go by doing the design of this form. I need this login form to have two labels, two text box, and one button. Actually, two buttons. I'm going to explain the reason why of making use of two buttons. But let me go to toolbox. Uh, by the way, if this toolbox was not appearing here, so it's very simple to make it, to display it on your project. You just have to come to view, then you look for toolbox. Here it is. You click on it. You click once on it. Sorry, what am I doing here? Actually, this is the one. Okay, click on toolbox, and then it will be here on your project. Then I'm going to click on it, and then I select label. Okay, once you click on that label, you're just going to click on the page on your form here. It came two, but suppose it was only one label. So the only way to go get the second one is to go back to toolbox. One more time, you type label, you click on it, and then you drag it all the way around, and then you just click on the page. It's going to appear there. All right. So I want them to be like this. The first label will be named. I'm going to change the text property of it from being label 1 to username. Okay. The second one, I will name it password. As for the first one, I just changed the text property, but I was also supposed to change the name property of it so that it can make sense throughout the software in order to avoid confusion. So I'm going to look for name. I will name it, how do I name it? Let me name it label username. Okay. Okay, that's how I want it to be named, label username. And for password, I will name it label password. Okay, that is fine. Let me try to align it so that can be a bit smart. There it is. All right. Now let me go get two text box. I go to toolbox. Then I'm going to type just text like this in order to get a text box here. I click on it here. Then it's up here. I'm just going to place it here. This is the first one. Let me go get the second text box here. Where it is. Here it is. I'm going to drag and place it here. All right. So let me try to make it a bit long. Okay. I think this one should be fine. Then I'm going to get two buttons. You can just say like this. All right. That is the first button. Let me go get the second button. Okay. I think this is fine. All right. Just going to line it like this so that it can make sense. I think this is cute. This is nice. Let me reduce this small form. This is good. So the first text box, I will name it txt, which stands for text. txt username. Okay, the second one, I will name it txt password. Okay, the first button, its text property, I'll change it from button 1 to sign in. Okay, actually let me put I think like this, it's fine. Sign in. Let me underline this first letter. I'm just going to put this letter here in order to underline S. Okay, S has been underlined. So the second button, I'm going to name it as register. I'm going to explain to you why I'm naming it register. Okay, let me underline R. Put this on here. I'm going to save all this change. So if I want to make some design, it's up to me. But as for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So there's two buttons here. The first one is named, actually, let me also name the property, sorry, the name property for this button here. Instead of it being, because so far it's going to be button one, but I don't want it to be button one. I'm going to call it btn sign in, which stands for button signing. Okay, btn sign. I think this is fine. I'll leave it as it is. For the second one, I'll name it, from being button 2, I'll name it register. Actually, let me put the prefix btn register. All right. Then I have to save all the change that I made. So the first button will help us to sign the information in order to get access to the rest of the software. All right. But this second button, this one will help us to register new users, because for a user to sign in, that user must being already found, must have been already found, or must have been already registered into the database. Because if someone is not found inside the database, that person will not going to be able to sign in, because his credentials or his informations are not in the database. That is the reason why I need two buttons, the one for signing and the one for registration. So for someone to sign, that person has to register first. All right, that is the reason why I prefer to have two buttons. But I'm going to go for creating another form, which I will call register, because this form, it is named login form, but I have to create another new form which I will name register. All right, we're going to register people using that form, or users using that form, and then after those people they are found into the database, that is when we're going to make use of login form. So let me go for creating another form which I will name registration of user. I'm going to project a new Windows form. Okay, Windows form, it is fine. So let me name this form as FM FM registration. FM registration. Okay, I know this one is for user. All right, I go to add. So this form, it is saved here. Let me change the text property of this. Instead of FM registration, I'm just going to call it right away registration of user. Right? I'm going to save it. So let me also change the name property of this form. Where it is here. Name property of this form. So far it's fine. It is called FM registration. That is good. So I'm going to leave it as it is. That's fine. So here also I need um, two labels. Okay. The first one is same apply for the login form. The first one will be name. This is the name property of it. It's fine. Just going to name it LB. Actually, label user. It's fine. Label username. All right. Let me change this text property here. Let me look for text here. What it is. Actually, let me do this. That will be fine. All right. I'll call it username. And then the second one will be named password. Okay, let me try to place them here. Okay, then I need two text box. I can copy and copy and paste it. It works also perfectly, just to avoid wasting time unnecessary. All right, so I have two labels, the one for username, the second one is for password. I also have two text box. The first one is for username and the second one also is for password. So let me go on renaming this first text box. The name property here, I'll call it text. I'll call it txt username. Okay, the second one, I will call it txt. This one is for password. All right, so here I also need two buttons. Actually, one button only. I only need one button here. Drag it and then I drop it here. Let me expand it. Okay. I'm going to reduce this window here. I'm going to make it a bit small. So this button here, I'm going to name it. I will rename it from being button 1 to BTN registration. Yeah. BTN registration. All right. I think that is good. So let me change the text property of this. I'll name it as registration. Okay. Let me register it. I'm going just to save all the changes that I have made. Okay, so that is far so far. That is good. Let me get back to this form here. Oh, I forget to change the name of this form. It's still form 1. Should be FM user. So let me come here to name property. It is actually fine. Okay, let me just copy it. Come here. I'm going to rename it like this so that it can make sense. Yeah, that is fine for now. So I have two forms here, two forms, the one for login form and the other one is for registration. All right. So let me go to login form first. So let me try to register. So for now, if I launch, login form is the one that is going to come first. If I start my project, login form will be the one to start first. All right, here it is. So for now, these buttons are useless because I haven't put any code inside it. All right, let me quit there. So I'm going to put some code here in order to make use of registration form. Let me click here. I double click on it. So by clicking on btn register, I have to put some code so I can be able to call the form that deals with the registrations of users. So I'll call it FM registrations. This is the form I want to manipulate. So I'm going to name it as object. I'm going to create an object which will help me to make use, or which will help me to manipulate this form here. So this object will be equals to new FM registration. And then I put this, then I come down, I would say object registration, which is this one, dot show. All right. Then semicolon. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. Let me try to start the software. First of all, it's going to give me a login form, but once I click on register, then it will call registration page here, or registration of users, which will help me to register new users into the database, and then I can log using the login form because the credentials of user will already be saved in the database. All right. Okay. So let me get back to login form. After you click on register, and then it gives you, or it displays registration of the users, the form of registration of the user. I need that after the form of registration of users is displayed, that it can hide the login form, because for now, if I click on start, I click also on register, we can see both of these forms are displayed here. So this is awkward. Here it does not make sense at all. I want it to be like in such a way that once I click on registration, it's going to display this form here, but it needs to hide this login form. All right. So how do I go for that? Well, that is simple. Let me close this one. I get back to login form, and then registration. Once I display the registration of the users, I want login form to be hidden. So I'll come down here, then I'll say this dots hide semicolon. I save it, or I register it, I put here, then I come to start. So this is what is going to happen. Once I click on register, can you see that there is no more display of two forms as they were displayed? That was awkward. It was not making sense at all. So this one tells me that now I have to register a new employee. I mean, not employee, but I have to register new users. And once the user is registered into the database, by clicking now on registrations, it has to hide, or it has to discharge this registration form, and then immediately it must give me access to the login form, which now I have to make use of the credentials that I just created, which will help me to log into the system using login form. And then after login form, then we can make use of other form into the system if we have those forms. All right. So let me go on putting some code, some source code here, which will help us to register new users into the database. I'm going to pause this here. Let me save all the informations that I just created. The first thing to do, since I have to deal with database, because the informations regarding X or Y users that we need to save, so that we need to register first, and then afterward make use of those informations. So those informations must be saved into a database. That means that I have to make use of database management system. And for this case in particular, I chose Microsoft SQL Server as database management system to be to be saving all the information into those database so I can make use of them. And in my previous video, I'll put the link below the descriptions. I already created, or I already made a video explaining how to create database, how to create a very simple database using Microsoft Server as database management system. All right, so I'm gonna put the link in the description so that you can click, and if you want, you're going to see how to create a database. But that database that I'm talking about, it exists already. Let me just go check that database. I'm gonna go back to this PC. I'll go to my file, local disk C, on the project where it says the project which is named projects. This is the folder. I already created a folder named database, and into this folder there is a project, there is a database which is named project, because this is the database that I already created. But I want to open the database using Microsoft SQL Server. So let me close here. I'm just gonna launch Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, SQL Server is open. I'm going to connect. Then I'll go all the way around where it says databases. I'm going to expand it, and then I'll select this database here. This is the one that I want to work on. I'll expand it. I come all the way around to tables. I expand it. So the table I want to work on is this one, the one which is named TB users. So this table will help us to create some new users. All right, going to click on it, and then right click. Let me go to edit top 200 rows. So this is the database we're going to deal with. I'm going to link this database with the project that we are busy building in order to start saving the informations. By informations, I'm talking about username and password of users into this database, so that when we need to log using logging form, those informations, they must be found already inside this database. Okay, but for now it's blank, it's empty. Now I have to go make use of my Visual Studio and then put some code inside so that we can be able to register the information into the database. Okay, let me log um, let me make use of this FM registrations form, because this is the first thing to start with. Okay, just going to check if I managed to name this button here. All right, it is named. So I'm gonna double click on this button, which will help us to register username, password into the database here, into SQL Server database, which I already created. Let me reduce this one. And I'm going to double click on the registration button here. So on my text editor window, I have to create a namespace here, which will help us dealing with database, because as for now, there's no way we can start saving the database because there's no namespace that helps us to do those things. So I'm going to say using system dots data dots SQL clients and then semicolon. All right, so this is the namespace that I have to create first before we can start making use of database, which I already created now. All right, and the second thing to do is to create a connection string. So to put connection string, I'll just come here below. It says public partial class. I'll come down here. So I'll say SQL connection, SQL connection, which I will name as con, will be equal to new SQL connection. And then now I have to pass the connection string. Let me end it with a semicolon here. Okay. So now this connection string is not full. I have to fill it with informations. The first thing to do, I have to put the sign at and then double quotes data space source, which will be equals to points, actually dots, semicolon, initial, it's a bit of mistake here. All right, initial catalog. Okay, is it fine? Equals. Now I have to specify the name of my database. Let me go for it. Where is it? How did I name my database? I come here, project, database. I name it as project. So this is the name of my database because I have to place it here. Okay, that's the name of my database. Then I put semicolon or say integrated security equals true. Then semicolon, double quotes. I think this should be fine unless if I made any other mistake. But if I made any other mistake and then it throw exception, just going to correct that mistake. But as for now, I think it's fine. Let me quickly check my connection string. It seems like it's fine because you can see the namespace that we just created now is highlighted. So which means that our connection string should be fine for now. Okay. All right. Now I have to go put some code here on this button, which will help us to save the information into the database and then start making use of them. All right. So how do I go for that? Well, let me do this. I'm first going to ask a question here. So the question will be, because the idea is that actually this is login, no, this is a registration form. All right. Let me get to registration form. Where it is, here it is. So by clicking on registration, first of all, the compiler has to compare if I managed to put username and password. So there has to be username and password before I can be able to register any information into the database. So if I happen to only put a username without password and then I click on the registration here, the software has to give me an error message saying that, you know what, something is missing here. So you have to check if all the informations are correct before you can proceed. But if it happens that all the informations are correct, that is, there is a username and password, that is when I'm going to be able to register the username and password into the database. All right, so this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put code which will help me to put those informations. So let me double click on this button. I double click on it. The first thing to do, I'll pose a condition here. I'll say if, okay. So what is the condition? The condition is this: if text username dot text equals empty, or text box that get the password is also empty, what is going to happen is going to give a message here. All right, it's going to give a message. What the message will be, go to message box dot show semicolon here. No, not semicolon, actually beside here. Okay, so the message will be this: please check that you have entered all the informations required needed. Okay, so here's the condition. If I click on the BTN registration button, this condition is going to be paused. So it will say if the text box that get the text box that you have to receive username is empty, or if the text box for password is also empty, it is going to give a message here, an error message, which will say, please check that you have entered all the information needed. So if that is not the case, that means that we've managed to put both username and password. What is going to happen? So what is going to happen is going to be below this instruction here. All right, that's why I have to say else. Okay, otherwise, if it happens that the informations are correct, that means that the username is there and password is there. Now we have to be able to register the information into the database. Okay, so now how do we go for that? The first thing to do, I have to open my database by making use of connection string which I created, but I named my connection string as CN. So I have to open my database. I'll do this, semicolon, then I come down here. First of all, I have to create a SQL command. SQL command which I will call CMD, which stand for SQL command equal to SQL command. Actually, not SQL, no. It should be equals to connection string which I created. Sorry, equals to connection string which I created. Create command. Okay, semicolon. Then I come down. I have now to make use of the command that I created as command tab. Where it is? Here it is. Which should be equal to command type equals to command tab dot text, and then semicolon. I come down. I have to make also use to command again, which will be cmd dot command text, which I already declared there. That should be equals to query. So now I'm going to put a query which will help me to insert the information into my database. Okay, I will say insert. What am I going to insert here? I'm going to insert the information into the database, and the database exists already. This is the database which I named as project, but I have to specify the table in which I need to save these informations. And this table here, how did I name this table? I just name it tb underscore users. I'm just going to copy it in order to avoid any other mistake. Then I come in this inside this bracket, I paste it. After pasting it, okay, now I have to pass the value of that table. Remember, this table has two fields. Let me try to expand it. There's two fields, there's two columns. The first column is name, username, and the second one is password. So I have to declare these fields inside my Visual Studio. So this one will be username. Sorry. And then comma, password. All right, I think that is fine. Now I have to go for value. Values will be, let me do this. I'm going to come back to the next line in order to avoid any other mistake. Then I do this, sorry. Okay. All right, now let me pass the text that are inside, that are on my form. So it's txt where the mistake is coming from. So let me fix here. It's first call single quotes and then double quotes. All right. Actually, it's insert into. All right, insert into. All right. Let me do this now. Text. There we go. Text username dot text. Okay, it's username dot text. Not only username but also password. So double quotes, single quotes, and comma, single quotes, double quotes, plus txt password dot text, or else I think that is fine. Okay, and then yeah, plus double quotes, sorry, double quotes, single quotes, then semicolon has to be the last thing to write here. Seems like it's fine, it's no longer underlined. So after that, the query is okay. What is going to be, we'll put command here dot execute non-query. Okay, then semicolon here. So once all these details are fine, once the information is closed, once the information is saved into the database, we have now have to close the connection string, because whenever you make use of connection string, if you open it and then you finish registering all the informations, you have to close connection string. So I have to close it by saying con dots close. And then after I'm done registering, what is going to happen, I have to clear the text box. So it's going to be text username dot text will be equal to this, so that it can be empty. That is going to be applied for the password as well. Dot text will be equals to this, and then password here. Yeah, I think this is fine. But now it's not completely empty, it's not completely finished. After we manage to save all the information into the database, we have now to display login form. All right, so how do I go for displaying login form? It's very easy. I would say, let me try to create a method here, actually an object, fm login, which will stand for, let me try to copy it because I'm gonna just paste it, which is stand for, I'm going to create an object here, object fm login, which will be equals to new fm login form, then semicolon. I'll come back here, I'll say object fm login form will then be shown, is going to be shown, semicolon. And what is going to happen to this registration form? This one will be closed. Let's say, no, this will be hidden. Let's just hide it. This one will be hidden, semicolon here. Okay. I think with this query, we'll be able to save informations into the database. So let me try to execute it. I click on start. All right, it's logging form, but we have to go to the registration form first. I click on it. It seems like it's throwing an exception here. Definitely, yeah, something it's missing here. So I have to I have to correct it. It's throwing an exception here. I have to check this line here because the mistake is coming from this line here. The exception has been thrown underlying this line. We try to check here the way I use the word. Oh, it seems like there is a mistake here. Integrated. Okay, how did I name this integrated? I put something more here which was not supposed to be there. Integrated. All right. Okay, let me try to start again. Login form. Let me go to registration. All right. So this form has been called without any issue. Sorry. So this form now is displayed. Let me try to put the name here. Username, I would say, let's say Diego. Password 12345. I click on registration. Okay. It seems to be working. So let me go check on my database here. So we just came to create a user. We put a username and this password also. I'm just going to explain this database which we are working on, and then I'll go to table. Let me select the table that we are working on. Go to right click and then we go to select top 1000 row to see if we manage to create the informations here. There we go. Oh, so things are working properly here. So we are getting there. We can see that we managed to create a user here. The first one, whose name is Diego and his password is 12345. So let's go on creating another user, all right? Just to make sure that things are working properly here. Go to sign again. Not sign, but register. I'm going to create another user. I'll call him admin. And his password is 9000. All right. Let me click on registration. I'm going to check on my database if I manage to, let me try to refresh here. If I manage to create also that second user. Okay, I come here one more time. I click here to see. There we go. So our database is working properly. We managed to create two users. All right. But now, here's the point. We managed to register two new users into our database, but we need those users to be able to connect using a login form. Okay? But by the way, after someone has connected, this login form should allow a user to make use of the software. So that means that after we've registered a user and that user, if he managed to make use of login form and then he is logged, but where is this login form going to lead that user. So let me create another page, which maybe I will call employee form. All right. Let me go to project, add Windows form. Okay, Windows form is fine. I'm going to call this form employees. Okay, I go to register here. Let me try to check the name property of this form here. How is it called? Is it called employees? I'd like it to be called FM employees, which will make sense. FM employees. Okay, so this one I'll leave it as it is. I'll leave it as it is. Let me now get back to logging form. So the idea is that after someone is managed to log, and if the information of that person is correct, this logging form should link or should lead that user to this form, the form which is named employees. All right. So let me go to my logging form, and then now we have to sign. We have to put the code for signing button. So for signing button, we need to put code or source code which allows someone to connect into the system and then to get access to the form named employees. All right. So how do I go for implementing this system? The first thing to do, since we'll be dealing with data, I have to create namespace which will allow me to manipulate data. So I'm gonna say using system dot data dot SQL clients, then semicolon. Going to save it. One more time, I have to now open my connection string. So since I already got a connection string on one of the page, I'm not going to type it anymore. I'm just going to copy and I'm going to paste it and copy it for this form here. So I'll come below public partial class. Just going to, sorry, no, it's a mistake here. Just going to paste it. So the connection string it puts, which is fine. Now let me go put query, which will help me to do the signing into the system. So it's about which this one, okay. All right, so which button am I working on? Let me get back to the normal here. It's signing. Yeah, BTN signing. All right. So I would say I'll put a string here which will help us to sign into the database. All right. So that string will be string query equals double quotes select star every information from the table. Which table is that? Let me check. Is this one. Just going to copy the way it is from table. All right. Where username, okay, equals single quotes double quotes plus txt username dot text, okay, text dot trim, right, and then plus double quotes single quotes. Okay, let me do this. 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 Let Okay. And password equals to single quotes, double quotes, and I have to plus here, plus, sorry, no, text password dot text, one more time, dot trim, then plus here, double quotes, single quotes, double quotes, then semicolon. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to just save these informations. Then I have to make use of SQL data adapter, which I'll name SDA, which stands for SQL data adapter, which will be equals to new SQL data adapter. Okay, and then I have to put here query inside query. Come on, make use of my connection. Then I have to put semicolon here, and I come down again, data adapter, data table. Sorry, I have to make use of data table, which will be DTBL, I think DTBL, which stands for data table, equals to, sorry, equals to new, equals to data table, semicolon. I come here, let me now fill my SQL data adapter with, sorry, fill, what am I going to fill? I'm going to fill my data table. Okay, I'm going to fill my data table, then semicolon here. I come down. Let me now put this condition. If, okay, if my data table dots row dot counts equals 1, then what is going to happen? This form here will be hide, and then afterward what is going to happen? I'm now going to make use of this FM employee form. Let me check the way I name it. All right, so I would say FM employee, which I'll name it, let me do this. I'll create an object, okay, I name it like this, as will be equals to new FM employee, then object of FM employee will be shown. So the form which is going to be handling the new employee within the database will be shown. All right, I think is it fine? Let me check if everything is perfect. So you can see the connection string is working perfectly because the namespace which we created is now highlighted. All right, let me try to start. Okay, let me put username here. It's Diego. Password 12345. I click on sign in. Bingo! It is working properly. So we can see we managed to create a the new users into the system So we saved them in our database, and then we made use of the credentials of those users by filling those informations into our uh, login page. And once the informations appeared to be correct on login page, the login page allowed us to get access to this form, which is called employee form, right? So I'm going to do a last test for uh, a last test here by creating another employee. So let me go to stats. So let me make use of the second employee, actually admin, which password is 9000. So if the employee or the user already exists, we're just going to put his information here. So someone exists already, is admin, his password is 900. Once I click on sign in, then it allows me, all right? But what if the information I'm putting does not exist into the database? What is going to happen? Let me do this. I come to start. I click, let's say something which is wrong, which is not real. I click on sign in. We can see nothing is happening. Nothing is happening because these informations, they don't exist. I'm busy smashing here, I'm busy hitting uh, the signing button, but nothing is happening. Actually, if the information was correct, if these informations were correct, they were going to give me access to a new form. But now, since they're not correct, they're not giving me access. But the system has to behave in such a way that if you put informations which are not correct, it has to show a message here, an error message saying that the informations that you are putting are not correct. All right. So how do we go for that? Well, let me put some more code here. So the question was this: if the informations into the table, we've entered if the informations and those informations appear to be true into our table, what is going to happen? The login form will get hidden, and then it's going to display the form that which deals for the employee. But if that is not the case, what should happen? Well, let me carry on. So I will say else, okay? If that is not the case, an error message has to be displayed on the screen. So I would say message box dot show. Which message has to be shown is this message here. Okay, the message will be, let me say, oops, oops, you have entered the incorrect information. All right, you have entered the incorrect informations. Okay, so I'm going to start. Let me try the information which does not exist into the database. Then I go to sign in. Da, 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 da. We can see now it shows this message here. Oops, you have entered the incorrect information. All right. So, but let me create a new user here. So for me to create a new user, it's very simple. I have to come to register. It's going to give me this form here. I'll say Patrick, for instance. Patrick. Okay. Password 1234. All right. Then I come to register. Let me try to log as Patrick. Password 1234. Sign in. There we go. Get access to the employee form. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for taking your time by watching this video. So if this videos was relevant to you, if you really like it, I will please ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is the only way you're going to encourage me to do more in this.